Today, I want us to think about Richard Wright, the African American writer Richard Wright. Really, a writer who emerged in the latter part of the Harlem Renaissance. Um, would have been a contemporary to Zora Neale Hurston, would have been a contemporary to Langston Hughes, would have been a contemporary to Ralph Ellison, and was a senior poet writer to James Baldwin. These are writers who had strong relationships with each other. In many ways, Richard Wright was somebody who introduced the world to James Baldwin, and he was very instrumental in getting James Baldwin, a young James Baldwin, the kind of support that he needed to be able to spend time writing, fellowships and grants, really gifts from benefactors, typically white benefactors who were very supportive of these emerging writers and tried to find ways to support them with some funding and so on. Richard Wright was helpful in that way. It is telling and quite one of the epic stories of African American the literary culture, that those two men faced an interesting impasse, a rift, in which Richard Wright felt betrayed by James Baldwin, when James Baldwin wrote an essay really challenging one of Richard Wright's later novels, and asking the question, about, as a young writer, saying, is this the literature that we want to create? Is this the new literature that we want to write? It's very ironic, of course, because later on people would criticize, a younger generation of writers would criticize James Baldwin, and it's questionable whether James Baldwin's goal was just a pure critique, but was actually himself wrestling with some of these ideas of what the African American novel should be, what the African American writer should be. Richard Wright was an interesting figure because, in fact, he grew up in the South. And one of his most fascinating essays, is an essay that is in the anthology and that I'm asking you to read, is called The Ethics of Living Jim Crow. And it's a beautifully constructed essay because it gives you some idea of the nature of Jim Crow and Jim Crow laws, which were not always laws on books, but they were laws of a society. And they were laws that were enforced by violence. And one of the things about Richard Wright's essay, The Ethics of Living Jim Crow, is that he shows us the way in which violence operates within those societies in which the Jim Crow law operated, and how the African American had to negotiate that violence, that threat of violence, and had to have sort of rituals of behavior and actions to survive there. How a black man could not look directly in the face of a white person, otherwise they would risk abuse and beatings. How a black person could not offend a white person, could not walk on the same sort of take up space on a sidewalk if a white person was coming to them, certainly could not even approach a white woman, even in passing. There were all these strictures and expectations which you had to learn, and you learned through violence. They were not written down anywhere, they were not codified, but they were the function of society. And he demonstrated in his essays, and in that particular essay, why that was so stultifying, that was so damaging to somebody like him. He grew up in the South, grew up in that experience, and tried to escape it. He tried to escape a system of indentureship, which was fundamentally the nature of sharecropping, where you had to work for white people and you ended up owing them for things. And he also grew up in a time when he eventually left the South, as he tells in that story, because he decided to defy and resist the black person. He talks about the white person. He talks about the ways in which the African American has to find ways to survive, but also finds themselves moving into a space of so-called criminality because by their presence they were deemed as criminals. It's a really fascinating story. And it begins with him telling the story of how his mother, recognizing something in him, decides to punish him for his actions. And the action he got punished for was that he was playing with white kids when he's really young. And he's starting to learn the dynamics of race. He thinks that he and the white kids are the same. And they get into a stoning war. They're throwing stones. It's a playful stoning war. But he gets hurt. And he gets hurt by the white people, and he comes home and he expects sympathy and mercy from his mother. And his mother's reaction is to beat him. And he describes it as she beats him almost close onto death. This is how serious it was for her. And he asked the question, why did she do it? The conclusion he comes to in that essay, and the conclusion that I think when you read the essay you begin to realize, is she said she had to save his life. That if she didn't punish him that way, he would think he could live that way among white people. So here's the way in which it's macabre. Because in order for her to protect him from being violently treated by white people, she enacts violence to this child. Richard Wright would then move to Chicago and there begin to teach himself to write by going to libraries and so on and so forth, and really teach himself to read. And he began to study and read a lot. And this man would eventually gain a career as a writer, moves to Harlem to be part of the Harlem Renaissance. He begins to write short stories and essays and so on. He publishes several novels, and he begins to have great success in America. But eventually he becomes disillusioned by American society and takes flight and migrates to France. But before that, he travels the world. He travels through Africa. Richard Wright would have a career and a life in which he celebrates Pan-Africanism. He celebrates and learns about and writes about and encourages writers from Africa, writers from the Caribbean and so on. And his own work begins to have success. But of course, his work also begins to get a lot of criticism. And his novels, which are hugely important, they've been made into films and so on and so forth. And it's worth paying attention to them because, of course, we're talking about one of the great American novelists and writers. And his protege, like I said, was James Baldwin. The story that we're going to look at is one of his early stories in a collection of stories. 8 stories about African Americans, and they're really 8 stories about African American men. And there are 8 stories about Jim Crow society and Jim Crow laws and the violence of that. And the Long Black Song is a particular example of that situation.